bum, 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 bum. That's it. That's all you get for the intro this week.
For the final one of the year, and we end with the opposite of a bang.
Yep. Just a gentle purr, and that's it. How are you doing, my friend?
I'm doing well, man. Kind of getting ready. I'm still like working on some content for the year, but apart from that, yeah, of course, with Christmas, we're recording this on the 21st. So, of course, Christmas is coming up. Have some fun things lined up with friends and family. And then New Year's Eve. And yeah, getting kind of excited for the new year. How about you? You, of course, are leaving in a few days. Right?
We've got Christmas in 2 days, and then we leave for the Bahamas later in the week. And like we're in the Bahamas for a while, dude. We're there for like 2 weeks. Because I'm me, I asked the place where we're staying, I asked them for details on the internet speeds and all that, because I was like, we're there for 2 weeks. There is no freaking way that I'm going to be able to totally disconnect during that time because I'm me. So I still expect to stream. I still expect to talk about games, certainly if there's news available. It is kind of a lull. It's kind of a dead time because most companies are going on vacation around this time too. It's actually, we'll maybe touch on the 27th GTA 6 trailer number 2 thing later in the show. But it's one of the reasons why I think that's maybe less likely is because so many companies are going on vacation and so many employees are out of the office.
There's no chance that's going to happen. Like, it would be on a Friday. And people would then just be coming back from, like, it's not like they just push a button and then the trailer goes live and then they're hands off. Like, then, like, if something people don't like or like there will be a ton of feedback, nobody will look at it till, maybe the start of January. So there's no way they will do it. They don't need it. People are just hungry, and that's already free publicity for them. So.
Oh, yeah. No, at this point, like, I would not be surprised if maybe they were planning on the 27th, if they're just like, no, okay, we're good. Because at this point, the discussion of the topic is almost more attention than the topic would get. We'll get there when we talk about GTA 6. But all told, it's kind of the quiet before the storm. Starting in like mid to late January, things are going to start to go crazy because we're going to have a crazy February. And I imagine reviews and previews and all sorts of stuff will start dropping in mid to late January for that stuff. And then from there, it's going to be a pretty steady drip of stuff. I mean, there's a rumored Xbox showcase maybe happening in January. Sony will at some point have stuff to show. Nintendo is kind of the big elephant in the room right now. Everybody's kind of waiting for them to make their move because they are expected, of course, to launch the Switch 2 next year with games of some sort. So I think once next year kicks off, it's going to be a blur. Things are going to be happening so much. Yeah, the 50 series graphics cards. That's, I think, CES. When is CES? Isn't that January as well?
In January, yeah. Las Vegas, like a...
Yeah. So, like, enjoy the calm.
Start. January 7th already, damn.
So buckle up, buckaroo. Yeah, just... If you are maybe going a little stir crazy, just go back, finish Indiana Jones, maybe play Animal well if you haven't gotten to it. Go back to some of those from earlier in the year and enjoy the quiet because next year is going to be just one steady marathon of nonstop
100%. Stuff. And in this episode, we want to kind of go over some predictions. Like, that's one of my favorite things to do, predicting stuff. And of course, at the end of the year, it's already fun to look ahead. So that's what we want to do, this year or this episode, and then it will be fun to next year kind of see how we did, and then of course make more predictions. So I do think it's like predictions that we know will have occurred at the end of the year, next year. I think that will be fun. So I made a lot of like topics and questions, also some fun ones like. What game will Luke Mace make the most videos on in 2025?
Fair game $? Maybe? No.
Exactly. exactly. So
I love it. I love it. And yeah, I see we've got AC Shadows, GTA, Horizon Online, all outlined. There is a very interesting question about our friend Herman on the docket that we're going to ask about. I think we can do a poll of everybody, see what you guys think of that. So it's going to be a good time, and it's going to be good. Before we get into all of that, maybe we just... I'm very curious. What is your game of the year 2024? Since this is probably our last show of the year, like it's...
Sure.
What's your game of the year?
I wanna do a quick shout out to Spencer, by the way. I'm playing Forbidden West on PC right now. It looks beautiful. Box, my man.
I mean, it's no Dragon Ball Sparking Zero, but
no. That's another question, by the way. What game will Samaya love and Raptor make fun of in 2025? But we will get to that.
We'll get there.
We'll get there. So yeah, my game of the year. People are already saying it. Lego Horizon. No. Yeah, for me it's Black Myth Wukong. I think it's kind of wild what they, as like a studio that has never done a AAA console game, did. And that game, the chances of that being as good as people hoped it would be were always, I think, pretty slim, because we only saw these very curated gameplay trailers, all dating back like 3 years ago. And yeah, they've been dropping them every year. The views were insane, and we were all kind of like, this looks awesome. I really hope it plays like this. And then it came out, and it's basically was this sort of huge, like, boss rush is not even the right word. It was even bigger. Some levels were bigger than anticipated, and all the bosses were a ton of fun to fight. There was way more depth in the RPG elements. Obviously, there are totally things that they can improve. They did add a map with the previous update, so it is like more easy. You can more easily navigate the game now. But of course, the invisible walls were kind of old school, and I'm sure they will look at that for future stuff they do. But for me, I also, because of course, like next to playing the game, another part of the fun for me is covering it as well, and covering Black Myth Wukong and going over the updates and the changes they made to some things was just a ton of fun. And I don't know, it was for me just the game I had the most fun with, the game that I just didn't know what to expect. Like when you boot up a new PlayStation first party studio game that is normally on top of my list, like a Last of Us Part 2, a Ghost of Tsushima, something like that, or God of War Ragnarok, Spider-Man 2, you kind of know that you're in for a good ride. And with Black Myth Wukong, it continued to kind of surprise me in good ways. So yeah, that's why it's my favorite game that I played this year.
Yeah, that makes sense. For me, I think, I guess spoilers for everybody who was curious, because we're gonna do a dedicated segment on the stream about it, but I've gone back and forth between my final picks, because there's been some that ended up being way better than I expected, especially later in the year. But I still think that my favorite and my game of the year will land with Metaphor ReFantazio. It's not to say other games aren't great. Astrobot's great, Black Myth, really great, especially given the circumstances. And when you consider that, like, for whatever reason, American games media was like committed to that game failing, or at the very least having an uphill battle to climb, with the hit pieces made about it and stuff. So I think Black Myth deserves a ton of credit. Games like Helldivers, which blew up and turned out to be massive. Marvel Rivals has turned out to be super, super fun. I've been playing that with my brothers and wife, having a great time with that. So there's been a lot of really solid games that kind of popped up out of nowhere, but frankly, like, for me, Metaphor ReFantazio is not just a really solid game. I think it's an evolution of the formula that Atlas has been developing over the last decade, 2 decades, whatever. I think narratively it's really, really solid, and it's a feel good game for me. But
did you finish it?
I'm close, but like my friend Corey, he told me, he was at the final spot, pretty much where I'm at. And he's like, I don't want to finish it because then it's over. I want to just like kind of leave it there, so I always know that there's more, and I just never have to like put it aside fully. And that's kind of where I'm at, where I'm like, if I just decide to go in and do it, I could just do it, finish it over an afternoon or whatever. But I've been distracting myself with Indiana Jones, which also has been kind of surprising. I don't know. Have you played any of that?
No, I still want to, but I might at this point just wait till the PS5 version.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Honestly, it might not be a bad idea. I just think that's a game where I do not blame people if they find it to be mediocre. The way I think it was Greg Miller from Kind of Funny Games, the way he described it in that clip I saw was that he said it's so close to being exceptional in many ways, and it's also so close to being ridiculously mediocre in other ways. And I do think that that's accurate. Like, there's the enemy AI does not get better. Like, it is brain dead through and through. You can get 5 feet away from somebody in broad daylight, crouched on the ground, and even though you're just like, you're at the camera and I'm Indiana Jones, they just have like the little yellow circles slowly filling up, and I just crab walk away and they forget I was ever there. Like, if you think about it, it starts to freak your brain out and it doesn't work. It just doesn't click. But if you turn your brain off to that and you go through it kind of like one of those 2008, 2009, movie games, you have a really good time, because there are segments that are super high production value and super cool set pieces. And weirdly enough, even though there's plenty of things to see and to like have problems with, it's kind of more than the sum of its parts. I could tear it apart for the AI, I could tear it apart for the stealth, for the combat, whatever. But when you play the whole game, you still end up having fun. And I think that that's what's most remarkable. It
certainly turned out better than expected. I think like it has a lot of good word of mouth, and I thought it was gonna be more like a that happened kind of game, but I'm still seeing people talk about it, which is good.
Yeah, I think it's just like all the problems and all the things we brought up in that skeptical look video are absolutely true. Like, the AI is brain dead, the combat super shallow, like all of that is true. It is very much a stealth game. It is not a big budget blockbuster kind of thing, but you still have fun with it. So it's just one of those weird games where even though it has these big problems, you still kind of end up just hand waving those away.
Awesome. Segue to hopefully some good AI, even though we of course have to wait and see, because Ubisoft is not known for great AI, looking at Star Wars Outlaws most recently, but they have been talking about, in Assassin's Creed Shadows, if the enemies spot you, certain tricks won't work anymore and they will just aggressively look for you. So that's something hopefully that works out well and is not just cool on paper, and we will of course have to wait and see. But like, I want to go over some topics for 2025, and some we can go a bit more in depth on, and some are like a certain topic and then multiple questions. So for example, will the following studios reveal a new game in 2025? And then we can go over some studios that might be ready to show something, and then we can kind of go over, do we think it will happen? Of course, if you watching live have like something you want to add to that topic or to that certain game that we're discussing, let us know, and we can like include it, of course, if we like what we see. So keep it coming, and then of course share your thoughts and predictions as well. So I want to start with the start of the year. Maybe we can like take it a bit broader as well. I wanted to start with Assassin's Creed Shadows, but I think it might be fun to look at February in general a bit too. We of course have, and I'm like looking at the list right now. So we start with Kingdom Come Deliverance 2, February 4th. Then we have Civilization 7, February 11th. Assassin's Creed Shadows, February 14th. Avowed, February 18th. Lost Records, Bloom and Rage, February 18th as well. Monster Hunter Wild, February 28th. And Like a Dragon is not even on this list, but we of course know that that's here too. So who do you think Who do you think will be the winners and losers of February in terms of quality and in terms of like sales?
Interesting. Okay, so Lost Records, I kind of expect this to just come out and happen. I don't really expect that to capture many people's attention. I'll just say that at the outset. Monster Hunter Wilds is going to be freaking gigantic. It's going to be massive. But I do think it's going to be one of those, like, I don't know how else to describe it other than Final Fantasy VII Rebirth kind of games, where it's massive. Everyone who plays it loves it, but it doesn't really dominate the discourse or conversation. Everybody who's interested will be playing it. And that's what I've seen before, is like, they're big games, but people aren't really watching videos on them. There's not a huge market for that. There will be creators, don't get me wrong, who are covering builds and best strats against monsters. There will be, of course, an industry around that. But I don't think that this is going to dominate the discourse in the way that, like, you remember when Pal World launched or Helldivers launched and it's all anybody was talking about. I think it's going to be a huge game that people play, but that it doesn't dominate much discourse.
It won't be as mainstream as World was, because I do feel World like got like outside of the Monster Hunter core in a way, right? I think many people tried. World was the first Monster Hunter game they played.
I think that this is bigger than World, just based on what I've seen from players and stuff. But all I mean when I talk about public discourse, like, it's going to be one of the biggest games of the year, certainly in terms of sales and engagement and all that. I think it's going to be freaking huge. I just mean that I think there will be more videos and more content produced, and there will be more discussion about like AC Shadows, good or bad, than Monster Hunter. Because everybody who's interested in Monster Hunter is going to be playing it. They don't need to watch videos to convince them or to talk about it. Like, they're just going to be playing it, and it's going to dominate most of March.
The beta was huge, though. They had like 400,000 concurrent on Steam at one point. Of course, it was free, I think, so everyone could download it. But that's huge.
Yeah, it's gonna be ridiculously huge, and it's gonna spill into March, which is much more open. Like, Split Fiction comes out. That's the new game from Haven, not Haven, Hazelight, the guys that did It Takes Two. So that's gonna be huge, but I don't think that there's a lot of crossover between Monster Hunter Wild fans and those playing split screen co-op games. So I think, based on what I'm seeing in March right now, I mean, I think Monster Hunter is basically going to just dominate March, and that's mainly the strategy. So I almost think of Monster Hunter more as a March release than as a February release. But
I mean, I can still see it being pushed like a few weeks if they need the time after. But they have been really good at like sharing clips of we made a lot of improvements. But remember, the beta had a lot of issues with the
performance issues,
origami monsters and stuff.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. I hope they add that in as like a secret Easter egg, a little origami.
At one
version.
point, they shoot as like as an event or something.
Yeah,
that you can
even The Witcher 3, like when it launched, Roach had all these bugs where Roach would spawn on top of buildings and stuff, and they added it as a Gwent card. So I think,
that's cool.
I think a little nod like that could be cool. But I think that probably is massive. No shocker there. Avowed, I expect this to probably be pretty good or even solid, but I expect this is going to be, for most people, on the back burner. I think it's going to be a game they go back to later. It probably comes out, the reviews drop, reviews are fine or even pretty good, and people go, okay, and just continue playing Kingdom Come. That would be my guess. But there's that. AC Shadows, I think this, no shocker, it's going to be, I think this is going to be the one that's really tough to gauge, because I'm just, based on the footage I've seen in the last few weeks, where it looks like things are progressing a lot. They've polished a lot of things up, and there's still a lot about the game we don't know that they've alluded to. I'm kind of expecting this to be better than a lot of us were expecting in terms of just raw quality of the game. But does that translate to sales? Does that translate to day one sales specifically? That I just have no idea. I think Assassin's Creed fans, people who like Valhalla, will certainly be buying it. But does this break into like mainstream like Valhalla? Probably not. Like, I don't think this does better than Valhalla. I don't think this probably even gets to the, well, also Odyssey, it wasn't like a smash hit the first week either, from what I recall.
Yeah, 100%. It was like more slow burn, but also because it launched like a few weeks before Red Dead 2, and then it later picked up because it had a lot of good word of mouth. But I think it's interesting. Like Assassin's Creed Mirage had the same amount of players as Origins and Odyssey in the first week, and I think this will be bigger, right? It has to be.
Shadows. Probably, yeah. This Shadows is going to be weird though, because as of right now, this might change in the next month and a half, but as of right now, it feels like there's not a lot of willingness from like for earned media, where like not many streamers are going to be talking about it. Not many YouTubers are going to be making casual videos or breakdowns on it, because it's just kind of radioactive as a topic. And as they start to focus more on the gameplay and stuff, I think that'll alleviate some, and people will burn out on talking about it and we'll move on to something else. But yeah, I really don't know. I think this is the big question mark. But what I've seen in the last few weeks is really encouraging, because it does look way better than it even did last summer. I mean, last summer, even just the parries, even just some of the basics of combat were really clunky and rough. And what they've shown off in the last couple of weeks have been significantly improved.
Yeah, 100%.
I think this will be really good. Yeah. Performance-wise, financially, I really just have no idea. Civ 7, I'm sure it's going to be good, and it will probably sell well, but again, it's very niche, so I don't think it'll have a lot of mainstream discussion. And then KCD2, I fully expect, as I've said, this is not me like leaking anything. I've said for months and months and months that I think that this could be the big breakout smash hit of February, beyond just Monster Hunter. But I think that this really could dominate. And moving to February 4th instead of what was previously, I believe the 11th was the previous release date.
Week later, yeah.
This was a brilliant move to move it up. I think that's great. And yeah, I did get the chance to go and play it early in New York City. I'm not able to talk about that experience at this point. I will be able to talk about it soon-ish. But I've said what I'm saying now prior to that opportunity, which is that I think that KCD2 is going to pop off, and I think that this is going to be big. That's been my prediction for a while. But what are your thoughts?
I agree with most things you said. Here we have Fabris in the chat saying as well. Civ says has 50k users on Steam right now. Civ 5 15k. Nobody talks about the fact Civ 7 will be massive. It will be in its own like space for sure, and it will not hurt from the February launch date compared to a lot of open world titles. Like even Monster Hunter can be counted as an open world game. Like they're basically 4 games that have a lot of like overlap between audiences, with Kingdom Come, Assassin's Creed Shadows, Avowed, and Monster Hunter Wilds. You could argue Like a Dragon is going for that same open world kind of RPG style game, of course, as well. But that also has, of course, its audience and usually sells 1 million, and that's kind of the end of it. Yeah, I still would not be surprised if Monster Hunter Wilds moves like a few weeks. But that's also wishful thinking on my part, because I want to play that game, and I know I will still be playing or Shadows 2 weeks after launch. So maybe it's more wishful thinking, but I can see them like they need to launch it at least in Capcom's current financial year, so that would be in March. So they still can move it, but I'm sure if they are feeling good, they will just stick to that date. But yeah, that I do think that game will be bigger than you are saying personally.
I mean, I'm saying it's going to be like one of the biggest selling games of the year. I'm just saying I don't think it's going to like your YouTube feed's going to be filled with videos on it. That's all I'm saying. To be very clear, it's going to sell millions upon millions upon millions of copies, and I'm going to be playing the crap out of it. But I just think in terms of discourse, like your feed's going to be much fuller with AC Shadows, with other discussions than that. I just think.
Yeah, I guess it makes sense, but I would argue that it could be like a Helldivers 2 situation where just many people, where this will be the next like sort of game that everyone jumps to play with their friends for the moment. So yeah, basically what we've seen this year, where everyone's kind of hopping around from Palworld to Helldivers to Space Marine 2 to that Monster Hunter Wilds will be that game, so that it will exceed Maybe there will just not be a lot of like discussions, or because it will be great like Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, but I think the issues with Rebirth were way more about you don't want to spoil anything from Monster Hunter Wilds. What can you spoil apart from some monsters? Maybe that people don't want to see. And of course, with Rebirth, you were either in or out because you need to have played the first game. With this, you can just join in. So yeah, I do think like maybe the discourse around it will be less interesting in terms of critique and stuff like that for Shadows. But I do think it might be taking over the gaming world.
Player counts will be crazy. I hope. Did you play the beta at all?
A bit.
Was I alone in thinking that like the system for creating a party to go out on quests and stuff was like ridiculously convoluted? Maybe people in chat can vocalize this too, but I was playing with my buddy Corey, who got me into Monster Hunter. Like, he has thousands of hours in Monster Hunter. I have hundreds or whatever it is, and we both had to like Google how to add each other to a party. Not intuitive at all. I really hope they fix that, because it was, I think, needlessly convoluted, at least in my humble opinion.
No, I just play alone, so with AI companions, yay, which I like. But yeah, I want to like dive a little deeper into Shadows before we move on, because I do think it has a way bigger implication of something that might happen in 2025 if Shadows is kind of what you are saying, where it's not that like that it's not gonna reach Valhalla is obvious, because Valhalla was kind of a like the hype for that game was insane, and of course helped that everyone was stuck at home.
Perfect time.
And they finally were like, okay, now I do have time for a game like Odyssey. So a lot of people jumped into Odyssey during COVID as well. And yeah, Valhalla with the Viking setting that people wanted, it just came at the perfect moment. And yeah, the Shadows will not have that benefit, but like let's start like for a Metacritic prediction, where for comparison, like Valhalla was 80, Odyssey was 83. Black Flag was 88. Origins 81. Where do you see Shadows hit?
I think oh god. I this is why I have to go after you for Metacritic predictions, because you were like the siren oracle of Metacritic. I still think it's like it probably lands, I would imagine, in like the 83, 84 range. I do think a lot of people will eat it up and like it a lot. Some people are going to call it a masterpiece, I'm sure. Others won't connect with it, but I would think it's probably in that like B- area.
Yeah, no, I think you're probably right. Also because it will probably still be huge. So I don't think it, like a lot of people thought Valhalla was too big, obviously. I don't think they will really have listened to that feedback, because they don't really agree. They're kind of going after people that want to spend that amount of time in the game. So yeah, I think 84, maybe 86, that would be great. But yeah, I'm going to say 84 as well. Around that time, probably like 83, says Rafterman. Yeah,
it's because you got to remember, like, it's really, really hard to have a Metacritic score that breaks like the 90s. It's really hard to have a Metacritic score that gets into the high 80s, because that means you're mostly getting those 9s and 10s. And people can put too much focus on the Metacritic scores, but in general, it's based on like a grading system, which tends to be a little weighted down, because there are a number of sites that use a star-based system, like 5 stars, where they'll give something 3 stars, which according to the star system is like a good, solid game. But when converted to the out of 100 score, that's a 60 out of 100. And that's considered like D-, basically failing. I mean, that's like bad. So it inherently gets pulled down when you pull all of the scores together. But I do think, based on the little, like the improvements I've seen, if we can extrapolate that out and be like, okay, well, there's going to be a lot more, I think there is a chance that this ends up being received pretty well by critics, at least. And I do see some of you guys in chat saying, like the Hidden Creed said, I wonder if you're a fan, said, I mean, Luke, it's AC. It will sell well no matter what. Mirage sold 5 million in 3 months, so I'm positive Shadows will do great. I just think yes, millions and millions of copies is great, but this game is like their big tentpole release. 5 million copies for this, that doesn't probably break even. They need many, 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 many millions of copies. So just at what point do they break that even point?
Yeah. For comparison, I think like Black Flag sold 5 million a month. Let's see. By the end of the year, so Black Flag I think came out at the end of October, and it reached 10 million shipments in like 2 months. Black Flag.
Yeah. And now games are way more expensive. This game has been in the works for ages. It's coming from basically their biggest studio, and every single one of their studios, it seems, is working on it. It's seriously, have you seen the AC Shadows Steam page?
Oh yeah. It's like spot the studio that is not on it.
Yeah, it would be faster to name studios that did not work on it compared to the ones that did. I'll put this on screen for those of you watching, but seriously, like, this game represents a massive, massive investment for Ubisoft. So they do not need just 5 million. They need many, many, many millions of copies.
All the millions.
All the millions.
And like they're on gamesindustry.biz, they every year ask analysts to predict the future, and 3 of them actually had a prediction about Ubisoft. Ubisoft will change radically, says one person. I hope I'm wrong on this, but I see Ubisoft closing studios and cutting staff at significantly larger scale next year. In my view, Assassin's Creed Shadows will get solid reviews and sell okay, but not enough to make Ubisoft continue business as usual. Ubisoft at the end of 2025 will look a lot different from now. And then we have another one saying, what will happen with Ubisoft? I think it depends on the performance of Assassin's Creed Shadows to an extent. A strong performance could change the leverage different parties have in discussions to take the company private, which may delay any change in the company's position. So just to, like we like Assassin's Creed, obviously we want to talk about it, but I think it's also like good to tell people how important this game internally for Ubisoft is, because it has to not only like sell well compared to other Assassin's Creed games, it basically has to offset the money they lost on Outlaws, the money they lost on Extraviant, the money they lost on Skull and Bones, the money it has to do a lot of heavy lifting, which might not be fair, but it just shows you how important this release is. And yeah, having that in the crowded February, I don't know, man. It's gonna be fascinating for that reason alone, but all they can do at least is like just have a solid product, and hopefully people will, it will have a good word of mouth. But maybe it will be a Destiny 2 Final Shape situation where even the Final Shape, like, I think launched in the best possible way. There were still many layoffs at Bungie after its release because it just could not reach the high amounts of revenue and that they needed to sustain their business. So it will be fascinating. But what do you think? Will Ubisoft still exist the way they do now at the end of 2025?
No, I mean, I've predicted all year that there's what Ubisoft is doing now cannot continue. Like, you can't have 20,000 employees staying afloat by basically 2 franchises. Like, every industry analyst, every financial analyst that's looked at Ubisoft says the number of employees they have is about double what they should, given the revenues and stuff that they bring in. So, and right now we've seen the stock price just plummeting, and there's discussions of Tencent and the Guillemot family buying out the company and taking it private, mainly using Tencent's cash, because the Guillemot family does not really have a lot of cash. They have stock. So, but this is what creates the really interesting dynamic that I think Jor is alluding to, which is that Tencent needs the Guillemot family to approve them gaining further outside shares, because in the previous it was like 22 or whenever, they took a big stake in Ubisoft. They signed a deal that said the Guillemot family has to approve them getting more shares if Tencent wants to increase their stake. So Tencent needs the Guillemot family. The Guillemot family desperately needs Tencent because they can't take the company private. They can't hold off these takeovers or anything without them. So they have this simpatico relationship. They need each other desperately. But one of them has greatly outsized power and weight in this situation. That's just from the money, and that's Tencent. Tencent is looking at this, and the reporting is that Tencent wants the Guillemot family to probably lose control of the company, and they want to put in new leadership. The Guillemot family are telling Tencent, no, we'll buy the game company with you, but we need to stay in control. Tencent doesn't like that, obviously, because if it were working, they wouldn't need to buy out the company. So
yeah, exactly.
It creates this weird thing where probably the best thing for Tencent would be if Ubisoft continues to struggle and drop further and further and further. And then basically the Guillemot family is looking at, okay, the company goes bankrupt or we buy you out and you get your billions, you ride off into the sunset. You can still hold shares of the company through the Guillemot family whatever trust, but new management, that's what we're doing. And they're going to come in and they're going to cut a ton. Yeah, people don't understand, like Tencent, they are the reason they are like the most profitable gaming company in the world is because they know what they're doing, but they also do not put up with any crap. Like if something has too much fat on the steak, they will just chop it off. Like they don't care, they're just going to do it. And that makes them a very capable company. And so I guarantee you, Ubisoft will be making many fewer NFT games, I would imagine, wasting millions and millions of dollars on that. But thousands upon thousands upon thousands of people are going to lose their jobs pretty much overnight. I mean, there's been reports of people at Ubisoft that started trying to protest the return to office mandate. So Ubisoft said, you guys need to start coming back into the office. We're going to cut down on work from home because in the office we feel it's more productive, more secure, blah, blah, blah. And their employees were like going on strike, basically. They didn't want to do that. Tencent would just shut down the entire studio. They'd be like, okay, well, good job. You're all out of work. There we go. Like they are the old school corporate sharks. So I all of this to say, to answer your question, Jor, yes, I agree. I think there's going to be major changes at Ubisoft because I can't fathom a world in which Shadows, which I think will be received more positively than people expect, but I just don't think it's going to blow up and make, do 20 million units in 6 months. I think it's going to do pretty well, probably because it's AC, but I don't think they can keep doing what they're doing now. So I think those analysts are probably right.
Yeah, I think so too. And I don't think like people are like, okay, what then happens to Assassin's Creed? Like Tencent will probably come in and look, okay, Rainbow Six and Assassin's Creed are the only properties that make money. And we have a Ghost Recon game that's almost ready, and we have a Far Cry game in development. Let's keep those as well, and the rest can go. Like that's probably what they will do.
Yeah, they're like, why are we having hundreds of people work on Beyond Good and Evil 2?
Yeah.
Why are we doing Just Dance still? Why are we like, what are we?
Why are we doing like year 2 for Skull and Bones?
Yeah, like we shut down X Defiant, but we're keeping Skull and Bones afloat. Like, what are we doing? So
I mean, to be fair, they probably are making some sort of a profit on the on the development of Skull and Bones. Well, of course, X Defiant with the San Francisco studio, that's not helping. But but it's still like Ubisoft looks at it from, okay, that's like still a nice profit, but Tencent wants all the money. Like it's not worth it to have the overhead work on something small like that. So it will be very, very interesting. But it's kind of unrealistic to expect Shadows to be as big as they need it to survive, because all their other games have flopped. But yeah, it will be interesting. I do think they will change, but it's so hard to see the Guillemot family not be in charge or something. Like they always find a way. It has never looked this bad, but it has looked bad before. At one point they like delayed Gods and Monsters, Rainbow Six Extraction, after Breakpoint. Like that was like another very bad period for them.
Yeah. And every time, it
so-
feels like every few years, we're like, did they learn their lesson now? With Breakpoint being a great example, where I remember reporting on that, and they were like, we have learned our lesson and we are going to be better for it. We're going to grow together. And a few years pass and they blow it again. And like, the problem is the leadership. The problem is the management. And if you keep running into this, there's just no solution. And that's why Tencent, like, they're very smart. They know what the problem is. And that's a German accent, dude. Close enough. But like, they just, the fact that Tencent thinks, or the Guillemot family thinks that they should remain in control is exactly the problem. Like, if they actually cared about their employees, if they actually cared about the company, they would have taken a different step a long time ago. So yeah, I think 100%. Realistically, how it plays out, to I guess wrap up my thoughts on it, is that I think Shadows comes out, reviews better than people think, but it still sells fine, but it doesn't blow up to that ridiculous extent that they need it to. Probably a month and a half later, there's news of restructurings at Ubisoft, and there's going to start to be some layoffs. And then shortly after that, I think we'll get word that Tencent and the Guillemot family have agreed to what they're going to do, because the stock price is going to continue plummeting. And I would expect Tencent probably takes it over. I think they will put new management in place. Guillemot family might help supervise for the rest of the year, but then eventually the Guillemot, like Yves Guillemot, will leave, and Tencent's gonna launch their big AC Jade thing on mobile, and then also on the Switch 2 when that launches. And I think they're gonna do tons of stuff like that and just start doing the cash cow.
Yeah. And maybe sell off some like IPs like Division or something, where they're like, yeah, we don't need it, or yeah, I don't know. Okay, so very interesting stuff. I think for that reason, 2025 will already be very interesting. Do you want to move on to another like single game topic, or do you want to like move on to something where we can maybe more quick fire stuff
first? Let's do, I think, the one everybody's expecting, because I feel like I rambled a lot during AC Shadows discussion. So now I want to hear you ramble about the Horizon Online game, because everybody knows what I think about these live service attempts to rework single player franchises and devs into live service ones. And I think the elephant in the room, to set this up for you, is the Horizon Online project. We've got stuff that I think we all are expecting to be crap, like Fair Game $, but does Horizon Online find success? What do you think this looks like in the shadow of Monster Hunter Wilds?
It's going to be fascinating. I do think that we will finally at least see the game. I hope there's like a beta. I hope they learned from Concord, where they will do a beta without announcing a release date. So the beta is not a demo, but it's actually a way for them to get feedback, go into the shadows, and then come back with a more complete product based on requested features and stuff. But of course, I think always the promise of hunting these robot dinosaurs together with friends is very, very appealing. Even if it looks a lot like Monster Hunter, like launching probably like max a year after Monster Hunter is not a good position to be in. But I hope they knew that, and I hope they have enough differentiating factors to still make this a success. And I hope they lean more into the narrative side and the RPG side. That's, even if you play this game alone, it will still be a fun experience. So they have the core Horizon audience on board, and then hopefully those people will tell their friends, yo, come join me to play this game with me. But I mean, everything is kind of going up against this game in a way. Like the fact what you're saying, like single player developers making a live service game. Like this year we had another of course one to add to the anthem with BioWare, like of course like with Suicide Squad, Rocksteady. There were many other studios that kind of fell in the same trap before that. Of course, Avengers with Crystal Dynamics. It's all the same. It's all, yo, you're making amazing single player games, but we want all the money. Why don't you go work on a live service game? I do think with Guerrilla Games, it is kind of different, and I hope it's kind of different because they of course do have a multiplayer background with Killzone, so they have done this before, and I do think it is, for one, their own franchise. It's not a new IP, so I think that might help, and I think it's just a logical right now. I think the best step they can do to expand the Horizon franchise, because we have hit a point where it does seem like there are not a lot of new people coming in with the single player games. I do think that everyone who wanted to play a Horizon single player game, or like wanted to play Horizon with the sort of things they have right now, has done it. So it makes sense to go with a multiplayer game, because then you will reach a brand new audience. And like, to be optimistic, like the gameplay of Horizon is amazing. The world has a ton of potential that we right now have only seen through the eyes of like a very powerful character with Aloy, and a lot of the critique that Horizon has is because of Aloy, and how some people don't like how bland she is, and just don't like the way she reacts to anyone or to everyone, or just playing as her is not something that people enjoy. But they do see a Thunderjaw and think, okay, like the premise of being in this post-apocalyptic world, where you with bow and arrow fight these robot dinosaurs. I think everyone would agree that is very cool. So to expand that beyond the sort of story that we had with the single player games could be very cool, to see it through the eyes of the different tribes, to kind of learn how they live instead of being this outsider all the time. And if they really have, you pick your tribe at the start of the game, and you go through a sort of tutorial with that tribe. You have your own starting area, so every tribe has their own starting area, and then at one point you come together and you meet a character from the other tribe, and then you decide to, hey, let's join a party, let's take out this corrupted machine that is like attacking this village close by, and then you run into someone else who has an issue. But you as the player are not like super OP, so you kind of either have to work together or just play very strategically. You're not like able to slow down time, obviously, because it's an online game. So I do think they can change the gameplay up in very interesting ways. I hope they really, really focus on melee combat as well. And obviously, I do think it will still be more ranged focused, because that's just what Horizon is. So that will already, like, I feel in Monster Hunter games, and maybe people that only play ranged would not agree, but I think that game is way more melee focused. So Horizon is already kind of approaching that in a different way, but I do hope they have a melee class or something. I do think the big thing that could hurt this game is the art style, the job listings, and they've said it themselves as well. You constantly use the word stylized, and if people can like have, I do think Horizon is kind of facing a you see the leaked art from like 3.5 years ago now. I hope that has changed, but it could totally look like this sort of Fortnite-y style thing. Like, these could have been skins from Fortnite in a way, and I do think that can hurt the perception and kind of give ammunition to people that are already for some whatever reason disliking this franchise and just want all the live service games to fail. So I do think that's a big roadblock that they have to overcome to get people interested. But I hope they reveal the game and let immediately people play it, because I think the gameplay will probably convince people, hopefully, and then the art style will quickly be forgotten about. So I really hope they look at, they don't do the traditional Sony reveal sort of schedule where they're revealing it and then a few months later they show the gameplay finally. I really hope they go way more aggressive, let people immediately play, and then use that feedback to improve the game. And I think that this, if done right, could totally elevate the Horizon IP way beyond. Like right now, I think they've hit a ceiling, and I don't think. I mean, Horizon 2 is selling less than Horizon 1, and Horizon 3, with that trajectory, will likely sell even less. Because if you did not play Forbidden West, which less people did than 1, why would you play the third game, where you're playing this character that you don't really have a connection with? So I think the online game has so much potential. They're at least trying their best with like the amount of time they give this game. It has been in development when it comes out probably 8 years. They have like hundreds of people working on it, but that also makes me very scared, because the chances that this succeeds are lower than it flopping. And I think that that's another question I put in the doc, like what will be the biggest Concord flop of the year. I don't think it will flop this big, or like as big as Concord, but I do think with the amount of pressure and people that are working on this, it could mean it could mean a lot of bad things for Guerrilla Games if this does not hit. It's a big bet, and I want to believe. I want them to succeed, but also how the other spin-offs for Horizon have gone so far, with Lego Horizon, of course, not really setting the world on fire. The VR game did not do very well. Forbidden West doing less than Zero Dawn. Like, it's not good that you are building this franchise and you cannot like reach above the first game you did.
Yeah. I mean, it seems, to just jump in, I mean, I think my thoughts on Horizon are well documented at this point. I mean, I do think Aloy as a character is where a lot of the problems start. Their lack of interest in giving her any notable like weaknesses to explore. She's just extremely powerful and capable in every way, shape, and form. Makes it hard to feel like there's real stakes or growth potential. I do agree with you. The art style, I think, is a huge question mark, and there's been leaked gameplay and stuff as well that I'm not going to put up here, that kind of affirms that perhaps this is the style they're going with. So I think that that's going to be part of it. And like with these types of multiplayer games, live service games are very dependent on kind of the cool factor, the peer pressure element, because you're hoping to play it with your friends. Like part of the reason Marvel Rivals has popped off is because being free to play, like if I text one of my buddies or my brother and I'm like, hey, you want to hop on and play some Marvel Rivals? He's like, yeah, I'll be on in a second. And we hop on, we play, matchmaking super fast. We could just get into it, and it's just a fun, good time. With this, I would fear that there's a bunch of roadblocks. Presumably, this is going to be one of those premium live service games that Sony's alleged, where it's probably priced at $40 or more. And that already is like a big speed bump. I mean, that is a big pothole in the middle of the road that not many people are going to get around. And it is coming out in the shadow of the biggest monster hunting themed games. So that's going to be tough to overcome. And you just, at some point, you have to kind of pause and ask, who is the audience that they're going for? Is it those Horizon fans that played Forbidden West? Sure, I think a lot of them will jump into this, but are they jumping into it in the way that Sony needs them to? Are they going to be playing this for hundreds or thousands of hours? I honestly don't know. Because maybe they get turned off by the art style. Maybe they get turned off by the fact that it's restructured in a way to try and keep you engaged long-term instead of being more narrative like the base games. At some point it starts to look like a game in search of an audience instead of a game that was built for an audience that connects with these types of games. But I mean, I think there is a chance for it to find success. But so much of it's going to depend on how it's marketed, how it's framed, because like you said, if they trip on their way out of the gate with this one, if they show a trailer that's like really, really just cringe and they're doubling down on the art style being, whatever they said, what did you say the word was that they used?
Stylized.
Just stylized. If they really focus on that and, it just comes out of the gate tripping, I don't think they could recover from that, because right now Sony live service games is a meme in and of itself. And Horizon at the same time has kind of become a meme, especially in the shadow of the Lego game, which flopped as well. Like, the meme is, stop trying to make Horizon a thing, Herman. Like, stop. It hasn't earned it quite yet. And the more you try to make it a thing, the more you try to treat it like it's Star Wars, the more cringe it gets. And I just feel like the doubling down and the tripling down and the quadrupling down on it could just turn out to turn people off. But maybe it pops off. Maybe it ends up being one of the big surprise hits of the year. But I kind of see it as that, where it's either like the big surprise smash hit of the year, or it's going to be a big misfire for Sony. I don't really see this coming out and doing pretty good or okay. I think it's an amazing success, or probably considered a flop.
Yeah, I think it really has to be a complete package where it has to have a single or like a story campaign, like a big open world with side missions, so that it appeals to. So you even have you immediately have at least those people that just want Horizon 3 and are like, okay, this is the. Because that's the problem with the spin-offs. They are called Horizon, but it's not the gameplay you want. So we just haven't seen them still like give us a game that is like Horizon, but not with Aloy. And again, that could be huge.
Maybe that's the missing piece. Maybe just your own character in a world that's interesting could be enough. And I mean, these, to be fair, these the art style, I saw somebody in chat ask, I think it was on Twitch maybe, but somebody asked in chat, why would they even do this? Why wouldn't they just make it look like the other games? And the problem is, when you do multiplayer, you gotta tone down graphically what you're doing, because you have more players on screen. There's more dynamics. There's networking stuff that adds time to each frame. Like, you just have to do something graphically, because you can't retain that same quality. And so they usually stylize, and they go this route because you can have more players involved without the headaches. But
yeah, I hope that's the reason. Like my biggest fear is that this comes out. It has like it feels like focused on a younger audience. It has this, like, after Lego Horizon, like I can already picture the trailer. It has like I don't know, like a upbeat sort of poppy music, and then we see people run and slide and like laugh and bing and thunder, like
the big explosion. Then they turn back to the camera. That was close.
Yeah, something like that. It really should not be like that, please. It has
but
to
that's
be
the thing, man. Sony's marketing
audience.
team just, they don't know what they're doing, man. Or they're like, that's badass, well, everyone else is cringing. At this point, I'm just not that confident in their ability to gauge what actually is cool and what's not, because they sometimes hit it with like Helldivers too. That's baller. And the tone and the quirkiness of the dialogue being reminiscent of those Starship Troopers and stuff, like that worked great. But then you see when they're really pushing something, when they're really trying, because it's high stakes, and you see like Concord and you see that total disaster, it's like, okay, so when they try really hard, it's almost like they do a worse job of it, because like the corporate team gets involved. So with this being like the highest stakes thing they've done in a while, I'd be really worried that corporate's going to come in and micromanage every single piece of it, maybe to the detriment of everything. And I see Kino Man's Guy brings up Helldivers 2 in terms of graphics. I think the difference is Helldivers 2 in a couple ways. For one, to be very clear, it is graphically stunning, I think that's fair to say. But it's also a very, very different kind of game than what this Horizon game is purported to be. And the other piece of Horizon that they've historically had is like much denser foliage. I know the automaton levels have some forested areas in Helldivers, but the levels are much smaller. It's not designed to be a fully open world thing. They're just different games. And so one of the routes they go with this, and it's also a matter of scalability. Helldivers was not designed to probably run on things like the Switch 2, which I wouldn't be surprised if they end up bringing this to the Switch 2 or something. To bring it on the mass market.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, we know it's coming to PC and PlayStation at least. But yeah, it will. Like, I think this the how this game can survive and be actually really good is if it's way more than people expect. So it is like a huge open world RPG that you can play with other people, but also play alone. I think that would work, because then it is not a Monster Hunter I mean, Monster Hunter still has, of course, kind of that, especially with Wilds now kind of going open world. But yeah, you're not really taking on more traditional quests and stuff. So I think that is where this game could hopefully shine.
Yeah.
But
I just
we will
think
see.
It's really interesting because I think a lot of this is going to come down to tone, like we said. And the reason why some people, I saw somebody else in chat was like, what's the big deal with the art style? I think it's because when people see this kind of art style, there are certain vibes that are brought to mind, because in general, when you see this kind of art style, as Jor said, it tends to be approaching and appealing to a younger audience, or it's that kind of cringy Marvel writing, or it's that hyper sarcastic thing, you know, where they take down, as somebody said in chat, they took down the Thunderjaw. Did I just do that? Wow. I didn't even know I could do that.
Did we just take down a freaking Thunderjaw?
Yeah, wow.
High five.
Yeah. Just the constant sarcasm and stuff. I think that's why this immediately, not just the look. I mean, I'll play games that look like that. That's fine. Like Breath of the Wild has a very unique art style that's not grounded or realistic. Totally fine. Who cares? I'll play Fortnite and it has the Fortnite art style. That's fine. But it's because when other companies try to use that, it's coming with many other things they're trying to do to also be mass marketable that are not that great. And yeah, Luke, they should hire you. Yeah, did you like that turn move I gave? I'll do the trailer, don't worry. Jor's gonna see it. God damn it, Luke.
And that's my other, like, we of course have the question, what game will Luke make the most videos on in 2025?
I think this I can see
it happen, and I don't want to live in that timeline. I would like
imagine how awkward this
I
would be.
tried Horizon Online and it's actually really good, and then after that you're kind of leaving it alone because Fair Games $$ has like a new season.
Yeah, and new target acquired. Yeah. I do think there's a way for them to market this where they like straight up, and I'm not even joking about this, where they use Fair Game $ as sort of cover for this. So imagine, as a decoy, literally. Like you have this game coming out August 10th or whatever, and then you have Fair Game $ coming out July 30th, and it just takes all the flack, all of the fire, and it's just the dead body flopping on the floor to the bullets, and then it's dead, but then Horizon comes out unscathed and then gets to be approached and viewed in its entirety without any of that. I think there's actually a chance that they could do something like that. It might even be brilliant. Imagine entire studios being established to make decoy games that are designed to fail, to take all of the flack for another game that has better chances.
Joshua saying, I'm pretty sure Luke is going to do more videos about AC Shadows than the other games. What do you think? Let's segue and then we go back to the urban question. But like one more segue. What do you think will be? I mean, for me, it will easily be Shadows, but like I do like tips and tricks and update videos as well. And I made like 400 plus videos on Valhalla or more. So yeah, obviously Shadows will be the game that I cover the most. But I mean, Shadows is potentially possible, but I'm like looking at Suicide Squad. Was Suicide Squad the game you covered the most this year?
Probably. I think like we did a number of videos. Part of it is like there has to be a story to follow, you know?
Yeah,
and the thing with Suicide Squad is that the whole story was crazy. Like you start high with a trailer that looks pretty good, but also weird. Oh, Suicide Squad, but it's also like, it seems like it might be co-op. What is this game? And then we find out more about it. And then we find out more about it. And then it's this whole journey from beginning to end. So it's more of a story than it is just news coverage, right? But
yeah, fair.
Same thing with like Skull and Bones or Concord, you know, where that story was very condensed, but that was also a story of this rise and fall. With Horizon, I think there is the potential because presumably we're going to have the reveal, any betas or anything, the launch, and then the reaction to the launch all within like an 8-9 month period. And that could be really interesting to see. If there is like a story there, and then later expansions or DLC and things could be interesting to follow. So there's the potential there. GTA 6, of course, if it ends up staying in 2025, there should be lots to cover there. Fair Game $, I fully expect that will be entertaining in an unintentional way on the part of the devs. But I would love for that to be wrong. I would love for that to end up being amazing. That would be really cool if that was like the big Uno
Maybe
reverse
Marathon.
card. Marathon could be interesting. I expect Marathon to be one of those games. It's probably really meaty and there's a lot to dig into. The thing that made Concord so easy to make videos on was because it was so shallow. You could understand in a 15-minute video everything about it. And like you got what they were doing, you got the problems with it. It was clear. With Marathon, I think that that's a much more nuanced topic, because I think that relies a lot on like streamer presence, that relies a lot on audience participation in streams and whether they're playing games for Twitch drops. Like I think there's a lot of other things that stack into that, whereas Concord is much more paper thin.
Yeah, for
but
sure.
It'll be interesting. I do think Horizon Online is certainly a candidate. I'll be talking about that a lot, I'm sure. This show's gonna be so funny next year, dude.
Oh my God.
Imagine if Jor loves it and I hate it, and every week we come in here and the whole show starts out with like a minute of silence where we're just staring at each other. It's gonna be so
Maya
good.
has to pick sides right now.
Oh man, I cannot.
Okay.
Oh.
Yeah.
But this leads us to the question. In the shadow of that, and I want to hear, I'm gonna ask this as a poll, okay? I'm gonna put a poll up for everybody too.
Yeah.
Big question that basically relies on the outcome of Horizon Online, because I think if this game goes poorly, that answers this
And
question.
fair game $sign as well.
Oh, fair game $sign, absolutely. So the question is, will Herman Hulst still be CEO of PlayStation Studios at the end of 2025? So December 31st, is he still in control? I'm going to post this into YouTube chat and Twitch chat so you guys can respond. Currently, he is doing like a bit of co-CEO stuff with what's his name out of the corporate office?
Hiroki Totoki.
He's a CFO, but wasn't there a different guy that was named co-CEO?
I think it was. Yeah, right. No.
Because Hiroki Totoki is the CFO, and then he put Herman and one other guy.
Yeah, and there's like a one guy. Like Herman is in charge of like it's not only PlayStation Studios, but basically the games and like the software and the TV initiatives and stuff. And the other person is in charge of the hardware. Urban goes CEO Sony with Hideaki Nishino is the other guy.
Yeah. So maybe he takes over. But you guys are saying 60% roughly think no, 40% of you guys think he will stay. And this built into this question is whether you think like Horizon succeeds, because obviously if Horizon's a big hit, then I think he certainly stays in position. If Fair Games fails and Horizon succeeds, I mean,
if we look at 2025, there are some, I think, easy wins for Sony, which are Ghost of Yotei and The Last of Us on HBO.
Right.
So those are gonna do well, and I'm sure that because of that, The Last of Us Part 2 sells pretty well. It's coming to PC in April. So yeah, that's a win. Ghost of Yotei, obviously, it's gonna probably do well. I'm sure. But
Death Stranding 2. Oh yeah.
Yeah, I'm not sure about that. I actually, if we are like maybe not Conquer levels, but I think that game will flop more than people are kind of
interesting.
thinking.
I'll add that to our list. We'll get to that in a minute.
Yes, because I mean for reasons that I will say in a moment, but it is Herman has been put in charge to like broaden the appeal, like get new revenue streams. And so far on the software side, they have not really done that. Like I think any CEO would do well with a Ghost of Yotei. Like that game will just, it's just an easy win. I mean, if an Intergalactic flops, like that's another, how is that possible? If you have a Naughty Dog game, they work on that for 7 years and not do well. And where are the other games? Because really, we've seen Spider-Man 2 that had like a way bigger budget than was intended. Like that game had to sell 7.5 million to break even. It was like 300 million the budget, which is like 3 times that of the first game. So yeah, that happened under Herman. Obviously, it's not like all his fault, but he is where the bucket stops. So yeah.
I've said a bajillion times, I don't know how he still has a job. I don't understand how you can have these colossal flops. And granted, this is assuming that the reporting about him being so intimately involved with Concord is true, because it's possible that maybe some of that was not accurate, and maybe he actually thought it was going to fail and nobody listened to him, and so he's vindicated by its failure. But when all the smoke and all the heat is coming from a room, usually means there's a fire. And in this case, all signs point to him thinking that Concord was going to be massive, with the doubling down on it, with the secret level show and all this. So I just don't know how he has been rewarded with promotion after promotion after promotion. And I mean, I think his choices and his direction has been leading PlayStation through a problematic path. And I think it really is just going to be determined by Horizon Online, and Marathon's the other big piece of it too. I mean, if Marathon,
Bungie's acquisition was another like huge failure. Destiny 2, I saw people say that in the chat. I mean, I talked about the final shape, but that game is like doing the worst it has ever.
Yeah. And we don't have any clear confirmation of why Jim Ryan left. He claimed he was just retiring, but I think it's pretty safe to assume at this point that he was welcomed to retire. I think if he didn't retire, they were going to fire him, and so they let him just...
And that was, one of the reasons was The Last of Us Online. Like, that would have launched this year, probably, but that was another, like, wasted 3 years from Naughty Dog's time with a few hundred people. Like, that cost them 100 million easily, maybe more.
Yeah.
And time they... Like, if they did not do Lost of Us Online, if they reached the point where... Because the reason why was... It's always stupid, and we don't know if that's the sole reason, but to be this close to release and then come to conclusion that, oh, maybe it's not smart to have our premier single-player studio turn into a live service studio to support this game, which the only way we can actually make the money we want from this... Okay, let's cancel it. That's like a huge oversight, for sure. So that's probably why he but that's kind of similar to Concord in a way. They've made so many flops, man, and only the things that have worked during the PS4 generation have worked so far during PS5 and Helldivers too. But that totally felt like a surprise to them as well, looking at the pre-launch marketing for that.
Oh yeah, no, I mean, without a doubt, Helldivers 2 is an exceptional game, but it's just that. Exception all. Like, it is an exception to the rule that has been established, and that's why it was such a surprise to them and to everybody else. But I think it's as I alluded to earlier in the stream, talking about marketing and stuff, when Sony puts all their eggs in a basket, especially with the live service stuff, it seems to go very poorly. And it's only when they are kind of not paying that much attention to it, like with Helldivers, because they didn't think it was going to be that big of a deal, that things have the chance to pop off. So I think there is just a problem with their leadership, and they don't really know what's going to be a hit and what's not. They don't really know what gamers really want. And I mean, even some of the reveals have been really bizarre and haven't really landed. Like, I talked just the other day on stream, my wife came on and we talked about Intergalactic, the Heretic Prophet, because in my opinion it's a bad trailer. Maybe the game ends up being amazing, but I thought it was a bad trailer, and she hadn't seen it before. She was totally unexposed, and so she saw it and she was like, yeah, I also am kind of like, meh. And either way, that is a failure. Like, that's not what you want. That you would hope people see your trailer after not being exposed to it at all and go, I want to play that. But
during a PlayStation show, like an E3 press conference, like, there was never a trailer where people were like, this doesn't look cool. Every like hit, whoa, Days Gone, like, even that was like a very cool trailer because they showed gameplay. Like God of War, The Lost Guardian, Final Fantasy VII was the remake was announced there, and we never had that.
Yeah, it really is remarkable.
Studio. Yeah, it's crazy.
And I never thought that I would be here like after seeing the reveal of Naughty Dog's next big game as a Naughty Dog fan and just feel absolutely nothing. It's really bizarre to me, but I hope it's just because the trailer was bad, not because the game is bad. But speaking of bad games, after the review has, you guys are settling on 57%. No, he will be booted or retire. And
I personally think he will stay, but it might not last until in 2026 for long. But I do think he gets 2025 at least. PS5 is still doing well. Like they just have so much, and GTA 6, like it doesn't matter what they do, they will be the platform of choice for GTA 6. Everyone will get a PS5. Almost everyone. Like that. I think it will easily be 75% PS5. 25% Xbox, and maybe that's generous. If they can secure some sort of bundle or deal, it won't matter. Or I say GTA 5, GTA 6, like it won't matter what they do, because the 30% they take on GTA 6 will make up for everything. So they're in a very good position, but it was mostly because of the previous leaders that kind of brought them here.
I think it mainly depends on whether, because what we know is Hiroki Totoki, the guy that put them in position, his main thing is margins. That's his bread and butter. According to his own interviews, he's like, margins. That's what I care about. So if Herman is able to widen margins, I think he stays. If he fails, I think we see a December announcement that he's going to be stepping down, and he probably retires by April of 26, or moves to a different studio or something. And how I think that will be determined is based on the success or failures of Horizon Online, Fair Game $, and Marathon. Because if those games fail, those are losses in the realm of not just hundreds of millions of dollars, but probably billions when all is considered.
If Marathon fails, then the whole Bungie acquisition was really for nothing. And if their other live service games don't hit either, because I don't think Helldivers 2, like one of the reasons they bought Bungie was to get live service expertise. And then Destiny 2 kind of stumbled and got way, way, way worse in terms of engagement and player numbers. And I don't think Helldivers 2 benefited a lot from Bungie's expertise, but maybe I'm wrong about that. But that's still like one game so far that has been successful. Concord had help as well. They canceled The Last of Us because of Bungie's expertise. So,
which makes you wonder, was it actually really good and Bungie just didn't realize, or was it so bad that even Bungie was like, oh, like,
I mean, Bungie still knows, like they're just in a very tough position with a game. Like at one point they're just doing the same tricks over and over, and at one point it just runs out of steam. But yeah, it's like that Concord and Bungie would be easily like $4 billion.
Yeah, they've, without a doubt, as of right now, they have hemorrhaged billions of dollars for seemingly no reason.
Yeah,
which
they could have like greenlit a lot of single player games.
Yeah,
and that would have probably been like better. To be fair though, I'm not sure who's in charge of like going to these Chinese developers and getting like a Black Myth Wukong, and like they wanted Crimson Desert. Like they are very aggressive and in the know about, like they're looking elsewhere outside of the Western market, which is really smart. Like if that is Herman, then that's cool. But I think it was Shuei Yoshida who came to Stellar Blade developers and was like, yo, we want your game. So that, I thought that was maybe Herman who was like, hey, we need some games in 2024. But
what if we do another Horizon game? Yeah, that's Herman. But how I was transitioning,
let's go.
Potentially a bad game. Sounds like you, sir, are skeptical of Death Stranding 2. Why, pray tell, is that? What sticks out to you?
Yeah, we can like take this broader. Like, I think it will be interesting to kind of predict, looking at 2025 already, what will likely not do well. I think your Bloom and Rage. Well, I think it would be sad because I do like Donut as studio. Yeah, they've just not been finding success with their recent release, and I don't see a sort of Life is Strange spiritual successor when a game like Life is Strange is not performing well to do well either, even unless it's like a 10 out of 10, but that's probably gonna be hard. But yeah, another game I think is Death Stranding 2. Sure, the trailers, people watch them because they look cool, but it's really one of those games where if you did not like the first one, why would you play the second one? And sure, a lot of people like the first one, but as with every game, the percentage that actually finishes something is super low. It's kind of the same as like Final Fantasy VII and Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, although those games are very highly praised. And I think with Death Stranding too, and those people, you don't really hear from those people because they moved on. But like I remember around Death Stranding, like people gave it a shot, but they were very quickly turned off by the gameplay and the fact that you're just running around all the time. And obviously, with the director's cut on PS5, they made some improvements that then later launched on PC as well. I don't know, man. I just don't see. I think it's surprising. Like Sony dropped this as well. This was like a PlayStation exclusive, and they kind of gave the rights to Kojima and was like, yeah, go do so. Like they don't see a potential future with this, and it sold less than Days Gone, this game. So I don't know. I don't think that the sequel, it might get great reviews. It will probably be a critical darling, but I don't see people spend 70, 80 euros on a sequel for a game they probably did not like. So yeah.
Well, and it's important to like look at why people didn't seem to like the original Death Stranding. And I think there were a couple of reasons. For one, people felt like it was just a UPS delivery simulator, and it's not really clear how this game addresses those critiques, if it does at all. It does seem to have more focus on vehicles that we see a lot. It does seem to have a focus on certainly cutscenes. They have some stuff that they show with like, you know, environmental destruction, and it looks like an evolution in some ways of the original game, but it still certainly, it seems like Death Stranding. You're going to be delivering packages, and that's mainly what it is. The other piece that a lot of people disconnected from it over was how just bizarre the game is narratively and stylistically. Some people love it, don't get me wrong. Yang Ya is over there giggling at how amazing and wacky it looks, but I think a lot of other people are actively turned off by it, and it seems like this game is just a doubling down on all of that. So I could definitely see some people who are like, this is not really at the top of my priority list, because it just seems to be even more Kojima Unchained. But for other people, that's exactly why they love it. So I do see this potentially as like a very polarizing game. As for its performance, that's one where I don't know. I do not discount the power of Kojima fans, but I do think a lot of people, like you said, bought Death Stranding out of kind of curiosity the first time around, and if they didn't finish it or they didn't like it, it's not likely that this convinces them to go and try again. You know, I haven't seen much that could do that.
And yeah, and the first game came out in like a time where people were kind of hungry for new games. It was 2019. It was not a great year. 2020, of course, delivered finally some new PS4 exclusives, and that will be different in 2025. Like you can spend your money on a ton of other games that might be more appealing. So I don't think that will help it either.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting when they choose to launch it. I mean, it is tough to say. But I mean, if they consider Days Gone a failure, undeserving of sequel, and then this game isn't even performing there, it's like, I mean, I
think Days Gone 2 would have sold more than Death Stranding.
Yeah, it's got, I mean, at this point, it's got more of a cult following. I've heard more people, I think, come down on Death Stranding, like, yeah, it's fine, it's got problems, but it's pretty good, than when it launched, where people were claiming it was a masterpiece and it was stunning, it's a new genre and this and that. Like, I still like Death Stranding at times. I like how relaxing it can be to just go deliver packages and stuff. But for me, how insane the narrative is something I kind of get through to get to the relaxing bits, because I think Kojima is just somebody that needs an editor. He needs somebody to walk him down and to talk him down, because otherwise he just goes too crazy. To the point where stuff just gets to the point where it's nonsensical. But I think, he's got a solid team. This, Kojima, he's got lots of very close connections with big industry players like Jeff Keighley, for example. He has connections at PlayStation, even with Herman Hulst with the big return to whatever they called it, espionage games that they announced at the movie studio back like a year or two ago.
They should have like immediately done that. Like just
it was the weirdest thing ever, right? Like they're like, hey, in a few years he's gonna basically make a movie. What are we doing?
Yeah.
But I think this is going to be a game that's inescapable. Like you're going to hear about it nonstop because Jeff's going to be up there giving Hideo a back rub while he talks about it at Summer Game Fest, and it's going to be all over the place. But final financial performance, yeah, I mean, I don't think it outperforms the first game. So
I think it will I think it will be kind of similar to like the Final Fantasy 16 or something, where people have kind of already are excited or are writing it off, and I think Final Fantasy 16 will be more successful than this. So I think this game will be very good, and it looks like more than I want. Like I wanted more action from that game, and I don't want it. There were many main quests that felt like side quests, and I hope that they improve on that, and it looks even crazier. And I'm down for that because I like that in Metal Gear as well, but I'm mostly looking at it from a Watch Dogs type situation, right? Where, yeah, the premise is cool, people gave it a shot, and then your second game can be better. But why would someone, like, you don't go to the sequel of a movie when you did not like the first movie? Like, you don't go to the cinema, right? Like, that doesn't make sense, and I feel that that's kind of the same with this, and the barrier to entry, of course, is even higher in terms of money, so...
Yeah, I think that's fair. I think you argue that point well. So, fair point.
We will see. Do you think there's another game that, of course, we have the fair game $? If that launch, like let's do one of these. Like, will the following games be out by the end of 2025?
Oh yeah.
And of course, the chat can.
I'll zoom. I'll enhance.
Insert as well. So the first one is Judas. Do we think Judas, the new game from Ken Levine, will be out by the end of 2025?
I think no, says Luke. I just at this point have zero confidence in Ken Levine hitting deadlines. I mean, the game might end up being really, really good. It sounds interesting and crazy, but the fact that they revealed it and did like a podcast spree 8 months ago, and they've done nothing since then, that to me is just a little weird. We didn't hear anything at the Game Awards when he could have easily done a trailer. And correct me if I'm wrong, isn't that published by Take-Two Interactive as well?
Yeah, they have a huge year. So
yeah, I think
give the band more time.
Yeah, more time. At this point, it's okay, bro. We've got 2025 under control. Go early 26. I think that's probably what happens.
Yeah, same. And then they can finally start talking about BioShock. Because that's another game they have. But no, Take-Two, I mean, they can like not launch any of the games and just launch GTA 6 and be done with it. Like, obviously Take-Two, different label, but they're all under 2K, different label, but they're all under Take-Two, who owns Rockstar. So yeah, that's crazy. No, I think Judas might even go quiet, and then like they have to show it again and then be out. Like maybe Game Awards 2025, bam, February launch, something like that.
Yeah,
that would be cool. Yeah, I put Silksong in there.
Silksong, at this point, I don't think it's real, so I'm just gonna say no. I would love it if it did come out, but it's been what, like 6 years or something like that. So
I think it's gonna come out and it's gonna be a Switch 2 launch game.
Ooh.
They were like, we got this opportunity, and let's wait. And then Nintendo will run with it. Although they did have like a sort of Microsoft deal, but I don't know.
That could at least make sense. Like that I think actually makes sense, if that's why it's taken so long, because they were just like, hey, we'll just push it till it
let's
out.
get the Nintendo money.
Yeah.
3D Mario. That's another, of course, Switch 2. It's gonna be huge. Like we of course don't really talk about Nintendo here on the podcast, but what if the Switch 2, I mean, maybe the Switch 2 is similar in a way to the Series S. It could potentially have some big third-party games finally, like an Assassin's Creed Shadows, and all those other games. That could be huge for them, and every third-party publisher wants that because right now they're porting old games to Nintendo's platform, but of course launching day one on Switch 2 would be huge.
Yeah. I mean, almost certainly confirmed for Switch 2 is a Mario Kart game, probably day and date. And I think we'll get some third-party stuff. Like, I wouldn't be surprised, as I said earlier, if we got like AC Jade or something that ends up there.
Oh, yeah.
As for 3D Mario, I could see that. It depends on when the Switch launches. Like, if the Switch is like, say, May or something, they do a really condensed marketing cycle for it, and it's like launches in May, I could see 3D Mario in November, December, probably 100%. November. So I would not be surprised by that. It times out well because Odyssey was in 2018, I believe. So I'm gonna say 17. Yes.
Or it launched the same year as the Switch, right? So that was.
Did Odyssey launch the same year as the Switch?
Yeah, I think it launched at the end of the year. But that was 2017, I think. Yeah.
Mario Odyssey. Yeah, you're right. October 2017. Yeah.
So yeah, I think they will like try and like copy the Switch year one as much as they can. So yeah, have the Mario Kart ready. Zelda Breath of the Wild will be Metroid Prime 4, and then they will have ARMS 2. And everyone will be happy.
And I'll buy it and I'll be pissed again.
And they will have 1, 2, Switch 2. Sorry.
Jesus Christ.
Gross Recon. That's the big Ubisoft game they might launch if they still exist.
Oh no.
Do you think it will be out by the end of the year? We will totally see it at least. First person. That might be something people don't like.
I'm gonna say yes, because otherwise I don't think they have much for the end of 25.
Black Flag Remake is seemingly their game.
If that ends up being ready.
I mean, the Skull and Bones, they need that crossover. So
yeah, they need those cosmetics. They need those furniture packs, which people didn't believe me when I said that, but I'm like, no, the customization for your ship is furniture. Like that's how you level up and get buffs. So I'm gonna say yes. Luke, that's what I'm going with.
I'm gonna go no. I think it's like an early 2026 game. Also, if GTA 6 is like at the end of the year, we will get there. But I don't know.
AC Jade. I'm gonna say yes. Like I said, I think it's a Switch 2 launch game. It has to. Yeah.
I think when Tencent takes over, like all studios just work on Jade.
Yeah, like all of a sudden out of nowhere. Yeah, they go into overdrive. I think that ends up being there. Fair game. Yeah, how dare you?
I spelled it wrong.
$. I think this almost certainly ends up being out next year.
Really?
I think that they cannot be so stupid as to think that this magically just needs more time. Like, I think this is one of those games, kind of like the NFT games Ubisoft's been dealing with, where I think they just get it out the door.
I hope so. But I'm going to
Or use it as a dummy or a human shield, a game shield for Horizon.
I think they will do a beta maybe, but I don't think it will launch.
Oh, like they do a beta and then when everyone memes on it, they go silent and then the studio shuts down 6 months later.
Yeah, with Herman.
Yeah, with Herman sobbing in the corner. I don't know. I could see that, frankly, but for me it's like, do they just get it out there and deal with the blowback, just let it go out there, kind of setting it to die? Or do they delay it, like
to make it work? Yeah,
because then it gets pushed to probably 26 because they're not going against GTA or anything like that.
No.
And they don't want to step
January
on Marathon.
26.
Like, and when does Marathon launch? Because Marathon's going to be doing play tests and stuff next year, so potentially
it's planned
launching
like internally for 2025.
Yeah,
but it has been like I'm not sure why it's not working, but it has been like said many times that the people don't believe that are working on it don't believe that it's actually gonna happen. But
as for Marathon, I'm gonna say no.
Yeah.
I think that gets booped.
Yes, me too. I put like an unannounced game, but I thought we would already have seen it this year, but yeah, not happening.
Yeah. Metro, I'm all saying no.
I'm gonna say yes.
Ooh.
I think PlayOn needs something. They need something in the year. They of course have Kingdom Come, but after that, not a lot. And I do think it's time. Metro Exodus came out a very long time ago. They've been working on it for a long time. I think it will be like a situation where it will be revealed and then just like at Summer Game Fest and then launch in like September or something. Like very close. But yeah, the big one.
The big one.
GTA 6, will it release at the end? By the end of 2025?
That's the big thing. I think no matter which way this ends, I would not be surprised. Like, they tend to delay a lot of stuff a lot, so wouldn't surprise me. But I think, didn't Jason Schreier say in his latest reporting on it that it has missed internal targets, but it's currently on track for 25?
Yeah, it is currently on track, but he also said that he would be surprised if it hit in 2025, but that was mostly because, Rockstar games always get delayed. This one has not been publicly delayed. Like, it might have been an early 2025 game that got pushed to late 2025. But yeah, it's Rockstar, and it's,
I'm going to say yes, but I think it will be split. Where the multiplayer normally would have launched like a month and a half later, I think the multiplayer launches in 26.
Well, that's interesting. I'm going to say no.
Because I think they want that cash flow up front, and then they let 2026 be the year of the multiplayer. Unless they do day and date with multiplayer, which has been alleged that they might be shooting for. But I just think like story modes for Rockstar games already are like the biggest games of the year. Trying to launch GTA Online 2.0 sounds like trying to do both of those at the same time is a bad idea, but maybe they feel confident about
for
it.
Sure. And they could still like support the GTA Online they already have and like add GTA 6 stuff to that. I don't know. Like there was like part of that article I mentioned with the analyst there, like they think that GTA Online will still be supported for PS4 and Xbox One for the foreseeable future, even after GTA 6 is out.
Oh.
Because that's like making, of course, a shit ton of money. So
hey, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Like,
yeah, exactly. If you have like a small team work on that, why not? So yeah, that's an interesting list. Maybe some people have other games, but I think we can like quickly go over some other things we already touched on these. I thought this was like a funny one. What Xbox games will come to PS5 in 2025? I think Starfield is very likely going to happen, probably around that second DLC, Starborn, I think it's called, according to the leaks. And yeah, I can see them like do a complete edition or something. The latest rumor from Jess Gordon has actually been that all the games are basically coming to PS5, but just some teams don't have the resources to launch their game day one on PS5. So that's the reason why they're not announced immediately. That's which kind of crazy. But of course, we know Indiana Jones will be in spring, and Outer Worlds 2 and Doom: The Dark Ages will be day one. So I can see like Avowed maybe in the summer or something, and South of Midnight 100%, Hellblade 2 will come over. So
do you think Fable? Do you think Fable launches day and date? Well, that's the other game we didn't have on that list for 2025 games. Do you think Fable ends up being in 2025, and do you think it comes to PS5 within like 3 months?
I think Fable will not hit in 2025.
Okay.
I would be shocked. I'm not sure how you did it. I just feel like
I just tab here. There.
Oh, tab that. Oh, really? Oh, yeah. Huh? Okay.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, there I go. Yeah,
it's a text.
No, I don't think Fable.
Yeah, I think it's what we've seen looks good. It's reportedly a freakishly expensive game. It has been a monster to put together. it's again, all of this just lands on GTA 6 because nobody wants to be close. If Fable is currently looking like fall or winter of 26 or of 25, there's just no way they would let it go out there to die against that. But maybe it's the game that slides right in like September.
But they need something for Game Pass. Like, that's why I think Avowed is still launching in February, because they just want to have that big Game Pass drop every month or every other month. So they need to have something, like, if they don't have the marketing rights to GTA 6, they still need to have a trailer with Game Pass or something that supports that play anywhere, right? And that, this is an Xbox campaign. So they need something big, but it can be other things. Like we had the Oblivion remake or like remaster that is seemingly, of course, being announced. But I think Fable is just not ready. I just don't think it's ready, and that's why they push it. I don't think it's like an Avowed situation where they were like, November is for some reason too crowded. Let's move it to February, which is less crowded, which turned out to be the opposite.
Oops. I think, I don't know. I think the trailers are looking technically very, very solid. Maybe the reporting there's reporting I've missed where it's having a ton of problems. But I would not be surprised if they announced it for like in this January event that's rumored to happen. I wouldn't be surprised if they announced it for like an October release. And if GTA lands too close, they just boop it back a little ways. And
let's not forget Doom: The Dark Ages. Like, that game is gonna be huge. And if that like, I think that can actually survive near GTA in a way. Obviously, it would not be ideal, but that game, people will show up later, or like you can finish that probably in a weekend, or if you're like really blast through it, or you don't need a lot of time for that game. So
that to me strikes as like a late summer game. I don't know why, that just feels like a summer game to me, like in August or something.
Maybe that was the case, but they just push it because I think that's like a safe holiday title that would not really be heard by a GTA. But
well,
it's gonna be fascinating for sure. I have some quick other ones, like what will be the game of the year for Luke and Jor?
This
at the end of the year.
Let's assume a couple things, because I think it'll be more interesting at the outset. Let's assume GTA stays in 25. If we assume that, do you think anything could beat it? Because nobody thought anything could beat Red Dead 2, and God of War took it over that. So it's not impossible that something beats Rockstar. But do you think any of the stuff we know about beats it?
I mean, for me personally, I do, because while I like GTA, while I like GTA, the setting is not like my favorite. Like it's not like I like a more Western, I like Red Dead more, or more like fantasy setting or something. So it could be that for me, it doesn't turn out to be the game of the year, even though it will probably be very impressive on many levels. But it might not be the game that I have the most fun with. That kind of happened with Red Dead 2 as well. I liked it a lot, but there were also many frustrating moments where my horse died in the middle of the desert and I had to run for an hour to a nearby camp, which was not fun.
I remember you telling us about it.
Yeah, that was no fun. So, and I did the hunting challenge for the inventory improvements, which were like 20 hours of killing an animal with a particular arrow in the head and using... It was no fun. So, yeah, I'm just not a fan of those types of elements. But yeah... So I would not say GTA 6 for me is a shoe-in, but I also don't know what could be it. Like, I mean, I still think, just like with Black Myth Wukong, that like Crimson Desert, if it is as cool and as good as it looks, could just be that different enough type of open world game that's really exciting. And Ghost of Yotei, of course, let's not forget that, which could also easily sneak up to be my game of the year. And Assassin's Creed Shadows, like if it's... I love just these types of games, and if it's from the Odyssey team, if they really listen to feedback, if they really all the AI improvements and the stealth is finally improved in an Assassin's Creed game to make it feel fresh again. And I love the Japanese setting. That could be huge for me too. So
yeah, I think for me, GTA 6 is much more my speed. I love the more modern stuff. I even just love flying planes and stuff in GTA games. So I think for me, that's going to be a front runner, just assuming the quality level is there, as it usually is with them. But having said that, I do think Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 could easily be up there. I think Crimson Desert, I also kind of anticipate. There's something about it where I feel like that could be another Black Myth level game where it just kind of expectations are high and somehow they kind of meet it. And there's definitely some quirks and problems here and there, but I think that could easily blow up and be really big. Beyond that, I mean, Doom, I think for a lot of people is going to be their game of the year. Probably not mine. I just personally get really motion sick when I play id Tech games. It's unfortunate, but it just happens. Split Fiction also, you can't count them out because that's, I mean, they've demonstrated they have game of the year potential, and that game does look really creative and clever. So Monster Hunter Wilds is the other one. Like it's so hard to predict, but if I had to put money on it, the safest bet is GTA 6. I think it's just going to be so freaking impressive and huge and polished. It's going to break our brains. But beyond that, if we kind of say, oh, it got delayed or it had technical issues at launch or whatever it may be, I think it'll be close between Kingdom Come and Monster Hunter for me. That would be my expectation.
Yeah. Awesome. And those are all at the start of the year. I mean, and that's the thing. Like last year around this time, we did not know about like a quarter or like a lot of the games that ended up being in 2024, and that will like Astrobot was not announced, for example, and that will probably be the same for 2025. So it will get more crowded as we move on, and the year will fill. So it's gonna be very interesting. Yeah, what else could we quickly touch on before we round out the show here? I thought the let's see what will be fun. Yeah, I think we kind of touched on maybe the most interesting things. GTA 6, like I think one like interesting thing might be GTA 5 hit $1 billion revenue in 3 days. What do you think GTA 6 will be in 3 days? What do you think the number will be when they because it sold, GTA 5 sold 32.5 million units in a year. But actually, if you think about it, Black Myth is at 30, I think, right now.
Yeah, so, Black Myth did 20 within like a month, wasn't it? It was, or like a few weeks.
Yeah. So, like, GTA is going to be, yeah.
I mean, I think it depends mainly on what happens with the online in terms of revenue, but if we're just looking at unit sales.
Oh, no. Yeah. That's not going to launch day one, obviously. So the first 3 days, GTA 5 back in 2013 got 1 billion in revenue, which immediately made the game profitable. And then after that, it's like over.
Yeah,
it's
dude,
like,
it's so ridiculous.
Oh my God.
I think it's got to do like something stupid, like 50 million copies within a few days. I think it's gonna break every record because I think every streamer is gonna be playing it. Like just when Kai Cenat played Elden Ring on stream, it was breaking peak concurrent play records from the last like year. It was selling like crazy. Like every streamer will be playing it. It will be all anybody can discuss. Like even back in 2018 when Red Dead Redemption 2 launched, like South Park was making episodes about it. People were talking about it on late night TV that do not play video games because it was such a cultural phenomenon. And this is on another level compared to that. Like Red Dead is massive. GTA is gargantuan.
Yeah. GTA 5 sold more than, or made more money than Red Dead 2. 5 years later. So yeah, that obviously is way bigger. I see people say 2 billion, like only 1 billion more than GTA 5. No, 3 billion is certainly possible, but I mean, I don't like 32.5 million in a month. Like the only thing that I can see kind of hurt, quote unquote, the GTA 6 potential is the fact that there are not a lot of. I mean, there are quite a lot, but when GTA 5 came out, it was at the end of the PS3 and Xbox One or 360 life cycle, and right now we're kind of in the middle. So by the time GTA 6 comes out, there will maybe be 70, 80 million PlayStations, 75, something like that. Xbox will be around the 35 million. But it means that there are only 100 million potential buyers for the game, which is still a lot, of course. But of course, there will be a lot of new people buying a system, but it will sell out, I think, the consoles. So, yeah. With it not being on PC, I do think it hurts the overall potential of, yeah.
That's true. But it's just, that's going to be so ridiculous. I don't know. It's going to be really interesting. I mean, I think people are also just assuming that PlayStation is going to be the definitive place to play GTA 6. And I do think that, or PlayStation 5 Pro. But I do think there's going to be a lot of people who have not crossed into the current generation. And for those people, like a Series S is a compelling offering. Like I would not be surprised if the Series S is also selling out with people buying it at a lower price point to be able to play the game. So I don't think the Series X will be flying off the shelves, but I do think the Series S probably sells out in a lot of places for people that are more monetarily constrained. So
yeah, possible for sure.
Yeah, that's going to be huge. Here's, maybe we wrap up on this question because this is a little more dynamic and altered. What, and I want to hear everybody in chat what you think of this, okay? Okay, I want to hear your thoughts. What do you think is the biggest game reveal that happens in 2025? A game that currently is not announced, that is announced in the course of 2025. Either for release in 25 or 26, 27, 28. But like, what is the biggest reveal trailer? What is that game?
Half-Life 3.
Oh, you think it actually drops? You think we see that?
I mean, there could be a trailer.
I think
there were way too many rumors about it before Game Awards, which was kind of weird out of nowhere.
Yeah, I mean that's definitely a strong possibility. I see some people saying Elder Scrolls 6 maybe gets a trailer. Maybe that would surprise me. If they do that in the summer, maybe, but that would surprise me. That would be pretty crazy. New Santa Monica game, that's certainly very, very possible. Wolverine, I see KJ mention. Yeah, that's certainly possible.
I mean, that was already revealed, but yeah, sure, like a proper trailer for it.
Yeah, Silksong. It's hard to tell at this point if Silksong is actually that big or if it's just a meme. You know, like
it will be big.
It'll be big,
like Hades too big.
Yeah, I don't know. That would be big, but I don't know if that would be like the biggest. New Blue Point. Apparently, it's a new like they're doing their own thing. Yeah, it's like a new IP. Yeah. So I don't know if that breaks the internet compared to like a new IP from Santa Monica, which I think has more potential. Suicide Squad 2. Yeah, I think I'm gonna go out on a limb. Here's the limb. I'm going out on it. I think part of the reason that we're hearing discussions of Obsidian shoving out Outer Worlds 2 and Avowed in the same year is because I think they're clearing their plate, clearing the desk to get to work on a Fallout New Vegas sequel. That's what I think is happening.
Like
or a remake or something. Yeah. I think they're going to do something like that. They're going to push to try and bring back some of the OGs. It probably ends up being mediocre, but I think that is why they're shoving that stuff out and they're getting it out instead of staggering it a little bit more. That's my guess, is like a sizzle cinematic trailer or something where they show like just the Mojave Desert, and then they go over the dam, and then you see New Vegas in the distance.
I think it will be Fallout at a different place.
I think because they're doing the show there, I think it's just for them it just lines up. It's like easy.
The game will not be ready around the show.
True. Unless they're like, we're gonna mimic the original development. You guys have 18 months. Go.
Yeah, exactly.
Or if it's just a remake, that could be easier.
And Todd has to sit down. Like, Todd, it's over. Go.
Todd, baby, go make another Indiana Jones. Yeah. Yeah.
There was like, I don't know, that there was like this. Did you say that he wanted to do Indiana Jones? Like, I don't know what it was, but basically he wanted Indiana Jones, and that's why he agreed to also do.
Oh yeah,
another game.
Yeah, it's my like conspiracy theory that maybe he wanted to executive produce so much that he went along with Fallout 76 and all that
exactly.
to get it greenlit.
Yeah. No, but I think that is still like one of the biggest things this year. Fallout being suddenly Microsoft's biggest franchise, because of the show, and of course the show is going to continue. I think that would be wild. I think it's like way too late. They should have already done that.
Oh yeah.
Outer Worlds. If they had that Outer Worlds 2 team, and did not make Avowed and just combine these people to work on a Fallout, that would have been way smarter, obviously. But
yeah, no, that's maybe the biggest. Okay, maybe not. I was gonna say that's the biggest blunder of the year. I'm like, no, Concord was, but one of the biggest blunders of the year was not having anything ready for the Fallout show.
I mean, they would say Fallout 76 had a big update and we had 4 million new people. Yeah. When they say 4 million, I was like, only 4 million? That's not a lot. I think more people played Fallout 4, like way more. So that's crazy.
Yeah, that is. But that's the problem with these. Like, maybe it's not even a problem, but when we think about stuff, like if we are not playing that live service game or Fallout 76 or Elder Scrolls Online, we're like, we haven't gotten anything in years. We've got no table scraps or anything. And the executives are like, no, you did. You just didn't play it. Like for them, they gave Fallout fans content. So to them, they maybe don't see it as though they just had nothing prepared. Because for them, they're like, no, we made Fallout content.
Another big reveal. New Uncharted.
Oh, that is rumored. Speculated. With his daughter? Is that what the rumor is?
No, Tom Holland.
Oh. How dare you? Do you think Sully has a mustache this time? Like that weird, awkward post-credit scene that they clearly shot after the whole thing was done. Oh, that was so funny.
Asterix says the next Star Wars Jedi game. Totally one that, could be shown, but... Yeah, I think to break the internet, it has to be Half-Life 3 or like Fallout something. Like if Phil Spencer just swings his big dick around and takes away some of the power from Todd Howard, because that clearly is not working.
Yeah.
Remember that they did a Starfield DLC this year?
Dude, Xbox has had a couple of solid ones, but Hellblade 2... I still insist, probably the most disappointing thing I've played this year, because at least games like Concord or the Shattered Space expansion, I already almost forgot it. It's being wiped from my mind. At least those I kind of expected to not be very good based on the trailers and what they revealed and stuff. But Hellblade 2, I had really high expectations for. I was really excited because I loved the first game. Had one of the most amazing endings of any game I've played ever. And it was so utterly lackluster and worse than the original in almost every way. It was honestly so disappointing. And maybe we finish on that actually. What was your most disappointing game of the year? Not because it like was just bad, but because you were hoping or expecting it to be good.
Rise of the Ronin.
Ooh, that's a good one.
Yeah,
people also forgot about that.
That looked so cool in the first trailer, and obviously back then, Shadows was not really announced. Ghost of Yotei, I was kind of dying for a new game like that, and they were taking place a bit further into the timeline with like guns and stuff. So I had high hopes from that first trailer, and then we saw more and more. I was like, okay, they showed like they talked about how big the game was gonna be. Obviously, they had a pretty good pedigree, but they just took on way more than they could chew, and it turned out to be a very old school open world game, like molded with a traditional Team Ninja game where you have these instanced areas that are basically just levels that are all the same structure.
Yeah.
The story did not make any sense. There were insane difficulty spikes. It was no fun. And the performance was insane for a PS5 exclusive.
Yeah, totally unacceptable in my view. Like,
I really thought like that I would like Rise of the Ronin more than Stellar Blade, but Stellar Blade actually turned out to be one of my favorite games of the year. So
yeah,
that's a nice twist.
That's a good one. Great podcast year. We had a great time together. Next year is going to be even more crazy. I don't know, maybe next year we can do an awkward photo like this. Naughty Dog posted this, their holiday 2024 card. They do this every year. And it's literally just like a holiday card of all their characters and stuff. But people are freaking out because they have Abby with her like hand on Joel's shoulder, and it just feels like really weird. Like, it's just a little awkward. For those of you watching, you can see it, but yeah, it's a picture of their new character opening presents, and Joel's there, head still intact, and it's just a little awkward. It's a little weird. I know some people are like, ugh. But Naughty Dog's done this before with other like games and stuff. They do it just to be fun and look at all their characters. It's not supposed to be super serious, but seeing Abby like hand on Joel's shoulder is like a little unnerving, but a little funny nonetheless.
Yeah,
she forgives him. Yeah, exactly.
After murdering him,
she's like, I forgive you now. That's so funny. Anyway, it's been a wonderful.
Yeah, we ended the year, by the way, with 375 reviews. We know that 53 Nights has the 3-star review. We still despise him for that, but apart from that, we thank everyone for the 5 stars, of course. And if you have a Spotify subscription, you can go there and give us the 5 stars. That would be great, so we can move to the 400 and beyond in the new year.
Yeah,
I didn't do that. Well, I know 53 Nights, but you joked about it before. We still have not found the person, so you were a prime suspect. But
yep, we're keeping an eye on you. Let's catch up on these super chats real quick. Thank you, Sumaya, for the reminder. Well, my super chat recapper is glitched. I got it working. So Hob, thank you for the 2 God of War 6. That would be surprising. Sumaya says Death Stranding too bad. Watch out, Jor. Young is coming for you. Yes, I would sleep lightly tonight. You never know. Otherwise, he's going to take you Young out. Buck's Basement, thank you for the 2. Honestly, ready for 2026. Kingdom Hearts 4, Persona 6, GTA 6. Do you mean 2025? You're just skipping 25. Jamu, thank you for that membership as well. And Sumaya says, I expect a public apology from Free Roam officials for misleading viewers if there is no GTA 6 trailer this year. Thank you.
Did we say that there was gonna be one?
We might have said like 6 months ago that there was going to be something like by the end of the year, because I thought we would get something this year. And the fact that we haven't is, to me, surprising, but...
yeah, no, 100%, but it's still not the end of the year. Maybe they will launch it on Sunday, January 1st. Someone at Rockstar, drunk, watching the fireworks, being like, screw this shit. Let's launch this trailer.
Yeah, we'll just send it.
Yeah.
Well, we'll be back in the new year, everybody. You guys have a wonderful holiday, a wonderful new year. We'll be back in January talking about games, having a wonderful time. And I have a feeling
have a great time, man, on the break, and I hope there's internet, and otherwise you are forced to
relax.
Yeah, what the heck?
To go lay on the beach? What is this? Yeah, the gall. thank you guys so much for joining us. Next year's going to be crazy, and I look forward to all of you guys being with us for it.
Yes.
Much love. We'll see you soon.
Goodbye.
Bye-bye.